For those of you who don't know, Leah Remini is a former Scientologist, and since leaving the Church of Scientology, she has done everything in her power to expose them. Tom Cruise is basically the commander-in-chief, and after his leaked COVID-19 rant went viral, Leah has now chimed in claiming that it was most likely just done for publicity. We're gonna spill all the tea for you right here on IO, but first make sure you tap that like button to show some love to the channel. And with that out of the way, let's just dive right into today's story. For those of you who missed out on Tom Cruise's major meltdown, allow me to recap. While filming Mission Impossible 7, a leaked audio recording was published by the Sun newspaper where Tom can be heard screaming at two crew members for breaking the social distancing mandate while on set. He continues by shaming the two crew members for jeopardizing the entire production and told them to think about the thousands of people who are currently out of work. It was a rant that really divided the internet. Many people applauded Tom for being so strict with these COVID precautions, but others thought that he sounded a little bit psychotic, including Leah Remini. Leah, who won an Emmy for her documentary series called Scientology and the Aftermath, referred to Cruise as an abusive dictator, something she says was instilled in him by his Scientology guru David Miscavige. In a letter she wrote that was published by a whistleblowing blog called The Underground Bunker, Leah said, "Tom does not care about the families of his crew. This is all for publicity. Tom does not believe in family values. I would bet that Tom had his rant written for him and had his Scientology assistant record and release it. Hearing a rich actor with enormous power address his crew in this way is a sign of weakness and a deeply troubled person." Leah goes on to say, "This is not just a rant of another a-hole actor. Tom Cruise pretending that he cares is why a few have called him out. They know this is a publicity stunt." Now, as I mentioned earlier, the actor's response to these employees breaking the rules really split fans, some commending him for taking this seriously, while others hated the way that he addressed the issue. Leah believes that nothing in that rant was actually genuine, and in reality Tom views himself as this godlike figure that actually keeps Hollywood running. In another part of the letter about Tom, Leah highlighted this and said, "Saying such things indicates the godlike figure Tom believes he is, and what he is told by Scientology. The reality is anyone who is working in Hollywood today is working under strict COVID guidelines. Anyone who is working knows this. Tom Cruise is not dictating how films are being made, even if he seems to think so." This psychotic rant only proves what many who know Tom or have worked for Tom knows. This is where she also starts to add in the line of Tom being an abusive dictator that was taught to him by David Miscavige. Miscavige is the current leader of the Church of Scientology, and according to a former Insider.com staffer, Miscavige is credited with swelling the church's member ranks and bank accounts. He also reportedly is not afraid of using violence and intimidation when it comes to getting his staff to do what he wants. Apparently lower level staffers at the church actually described the work environment similar to Lord of the Flies, and if you've read that book, yikes, you know how messy that is. The church has also repeatedly denied claims that employees who act out are sent to Scientology detention centers. This isn't the first time either that Leah Remini has spoken out against Tom Cruise specifically. During a Reddit Ask Me Anything back in 2017, she was asked if Tom Cruise was a nice guy, and Leah simply responded with no. She clarified this by saying, "There is a public persona of the guy who looks at you directly in the eye and shakes your hand and hugs you and is an attentive person to you, and there's the person behind the mask who is a completely different person." She did say that some could argue that we all have that, but that when it comes to Tom Cruise, even people who aren't Scientologists will say that he is diabolical. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on the story though. Do you still think that Tom was in the right here with his rant, or do you think that it was all done as a publicity stunt for his new movie? Either way, let me know how you're feeling about this situation in those comments down below. And while you do that, let's check out some of your comments from the video titled "The Real Dangers of Vaping Exposed in Shocking New Study." Matt X says, "Oh, so breathing in flavored heated chemicals is not good for you? I'm shook." I appreciate the sarcasm. Jonathan Baldoza says, "After watching this, I'm so glad to have grown up with strict athlete parents. I don't have to worry about my brothers and sisters getting ill because of smoking, anything, or drinking. Consider yourself blessed." Moda Hardy says, "Looking at the comments right now, I've realized that more people vape than I thought, and they're really defending it. Yeah, people really don't like it when you question their habits, unfortunately. Even if they're really bad for you." Matthew Holder says, "This for real does make me just want to throw mine out." Do it, Matt. Just throw it away and never think about it ever again. Ali Pie says, "I used to vape every day, but once I noticed my breathing became worse, I stopped right away. I've had bronchitis before and I know how much that messed up my lungs. Say no to vape, kids." Definitely say no to vapes. You don't want to be messing around with your lungs, especially during a pandemic that attacks your lungs. DM says, "Takes hit of pen and nervousness." Y'all are really not listening, are you? The Dark One says, "They have been saying this for years. Like, are people this dense?" Unfortunately, yes. Austin is Thick Emo Potato says, great name, "Vaping was so lame to me, to be honest, never understood why my friends do it." Yeah, let's go back to shaming vapors, you know? I'd be happy with that. But that is all I have for you guys today. I've been your host, Johnny Rogers, and until next time, stay classy.